on top with the new mulligan rule. And we'll be underway here in just a moment. Looks like Kent's giving one of these, what lands am I supposed to search up looks. He's going to start with Wooded Foothills. We'll head over to BBD. A Windswept Heath, Basic Forest coming, and there's Warden of the First Tree. Kent will sacrifice his Foothills. It'll be 19 all here. We'll see what land he wants to search up. Looks like it'll be Smoldering Marsh.
And that's why, when we're talking about cards like Warden of the First Tree, the conversations about are temples better or worse than Battlelands, they can be frustrating conversation to me. They're just different cards, and they facilitate different things.
Absolutely.
You're looking at 5-color mana bases that can play 1-drops. All right, well, you get those via the Battlelands. Are you looking to smooth out and fix your draws and be able to play higher mana spells and all that kind of stuff? The temples are better. They're just different. They're different Magic cards.
They're not legal together.
Right.
Prairie Stream, Fiery Impulse takes care of the Warden. Ketter, a pretty big fan of that card this weekend, playing 3 copies of the main deck.
Well, Shockstar at the premium. I mean, his deck is not even that great at facilitating spell mastery, but it's important to kill Jace, and later on in the game, it can handle some premier threats. Manus Rider, most notably.
There's Windswept Heath. Ketter going to sacrifice that. Going to go down to 18.
But for control decks, I think it's extremely important for them to be able to kill Jace reliably early in the game. So I think you're going to see a lot of copies of Fiery Impulse, a lot of copies of Reeve Soul. I think you got to shore up the beatdown matchups and be able to kill Jace. The removal spells that can do that reliably, I think we're going to see a lot of in the initial weeks of the format.
Hangerback Walker here for Ketter. He'll pass the turn back over to Braun-Duin. Braun will sacrifice a Flooded Strand, go down to 18. We'll see what he wants to search up.
Hangerback Walker is another nice card to be able to kill as soon as it hits the table.
Yep. No nonsense. Get that thing out of here because it can grow out of control. Basic Plains, the weapon of choice here for BBD, and we'll see what he's got for his 3rd turn of the game. A Sunken Hollow and an Anafenza. Let's go over to Ketter, who's got a Murderous Cut in hand and a couple copies of Siege Rhino.
Very solid hand here.
Yeah.
Also a hand that can easily assemble 5 colors of mana.
Yeah.
Variety of fetch lands, and Ken already with some battle lands in play rather. So well situated.
Kent's going to go with a Basic Plains off the Heath. And here's a Rhinoceros. Little drain, little gain. Going to outclass Anafenza. And pass the turn back. So, to Braun-Duin will go. It'll be his 4th turn of the game. He's found a Siege Rhino. It's going to be one of these type of games.
I like Kent's position here as with Murderous Cut in hand, another Rhino, he's going to be able to have a very good turn next turn. And he has Hangerback Walker to start investing resources into if the game should drag out past that point.
Flooded Strand. Brian down to 14. There's a Canopy Vista. Mana online here for both players. Oh, there's Siege Rhino.
Well, this sets up Ketter for a very nice turn here if he wanted a Murderous Cut alongside a 2nd Siege Rhino. I suppose he does need to have a Sunken Hollow in his list to make that happen. So we're checking really quick. Yes, he does. Because he needs double black.
Yep. Touchdown.
Always good at check.
Gotta see what the mana base built, right?
1 Sunken Hollow, 1 Canopy Vista, 1 Smoldering Marsh, 1 Cinder Glade, 1 Prairie Stream, 1 Mountain, 1 Swamp, 1 Forest, 1 Island, 1 Plains, 1 Shambling Fen, and 3 of each legal fetch land. There you go.
And you know what I realized? Writing out deck lists for this format has to suck.
He ran out of slots in the land column.
Yeah.
He's off the page.
That's why I'm glad I'm here in the booth, because if I had to write out 1 of X, 1 of Y, no thank you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to play in the tournament then.
Right.
Or I'm playing a Tarka Red.
My mana bases have been historically a little bit easier than that.
Pretty homogenized.
Right. 18 mountain, 4 wasteland. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Done.
Brian with a Smoldering Marsh. He also has access to 5 colors, even though he's simply a 3-color deck, and they'll pass the turn back. Time to draw. I believe it was a copy of Utter End.
Utter End also pairs very nicely here with Murderous Cut.
Also does a nice job of getting Anafenza off the table, too, if Brian ever goes after the Hangerback Walker.
Yes.
Make it so that Hangerback Walker can actually shoot out some Thopters. Here comes the Rhinos. See how Brian would like to block, assuming there will be a block. Looks like he's got some interest in double block.
Pretty hard for Brian to play around 2 removal spells, and if he doesn't here, it's going to be a disaster. Because if he moves a double block onto the Rhino, Kent gets to go, all right, kill your Rhino, now do something. And if that do something is something like Jermoka's Command or something else, then he really gets trapped. Most likely, Brian's going to double block here to try to induce some sort of trick out of Kent. And if Brian has a removal spell for one of the Rhino that he's double blocking, it's not that bad at the end of things.
There's a double block. Ketter going to make a move. Look like he's going to go with Utter End. More expensive of the 2. That'll exile the Siege Rhino. Brian has Obzon Charm. Put counters there.
Oh, man. Brian here going for broke.
This got ugly.
Yep. And, you know, I don't mind that play there for Brian because it's the highest upside, and Kent needs exactly Murderous Cut to blow him out there. But he had it, and now Brian is way behind.
Yeah. Brian looks like, he's just going to concede the game. He's so far behind. So Kent Ketter is going to win game number 1 here over Brian Braun-Duin. 5-color Bring to Light up a game here over Obzon Aggro. 2 removal spells that turn. Very deadly there for Ketter.
And that looks ugly, but Brian might be in a spot where he's saying, you know, I need to be able to beat both of the Siege Rhinos that are in play. His best chance to do that is to swallow one up in combat and then have a creature left over that's bigger than the other Siege Rhino.
Yeah.
So, and is he beating Murderous Cut in that spot anyway? Probably not. It looks bad. I understand it looks bad because he went to pump his creature when he could have just exiled the Siege Rhino. But Brian was making an effort to win the game, not just win that turn, and he got burned.
Well, we're going to take a look at the sideboards here. We will start with BBD and his 3 Arashnan Clerics, 3 Duress, 3 Disdainful Stroke, 2 Silk Wraps, 2 Self-Inflicted Wounds, and 2 copies of Exert Influence, part of the reason he's playing all 5 colors.
And Exert Influence, this is the kind of matchup it's made for. It's a slow creature deck where the creatures don't have that much power, and I have to imagine it's coming in. There's some other fine cards to bring in. I think Disdainful Stroke, the Duresses are both okay, but Exert Influence is going to be spectacular here.
Well, what do we see on the other side?
Den Protector, Feed the Clan, Negate, 2 Disdainful Stroke, 2 Radiant Flames, a Languish, a Tragic Arrogance, 3 Duress, 3 Arashnan Clerics. I think the Den Protector, because the matchup's a little bit on the slow side, the Languish and the Tragic Arrogance especially, all great cards to bring in. I think Disdainful Stroke and Negate are fine, but by no means a lock to come in.
Interesting first game there between those 2 players. Didn't get to see Kent really flex his muscles with Bring to Light, but that's part of the appeal, I think, to the deck is that it doesn't have to draw that card to be good.
No, and I think another card that has impressed me a lot this weekend has been Murderous Cut. Now, Murderous Cut's a great Magic card and has showed up in Standard previously, but now with these mana bases having so many more fetch lands, where before where you saw 0 murderous cut in the main and 1 in the board for Abzan control. That was pretty typical. I think the default's going to start to be 1 in the main deck and maybe more in the sideboard, because these decks turn on Delve a lot more reliably as a consequence of having more fetch lands.
Yeah, Ketter has 1 murderous cut in his main deck, and Brian has 3 in his main deck, so it looks to be pretty popular.
Yep.
And the games that we've watched, I think of Jerry's deck, for example. Cut has been great.
If the games are about 4 mana creatures and 3 mana creatures, if you're reliably getting a 1 mana removal spell that kills anything, that's very, very powerful. And I expect to see a lot of it. And that, to me, that was the whole game, was Ken was able to get to a spot where he's able to cast a 4 mana spell and kill Brian's 4 mana play in 1 shot, and that was too much to overcome.
Well, these players are going to shuffle up for game number 2. Brian Braun-Duin will be on the play for that second game. And we'll talk about the Star City Games YouTube page, where you can watch the replay of this match, the entire tournament, and a whole bunch more.
Yeah, youtube.com/StarCityGames. You can sign up today. There are a lot of archives up on that page, including Versus Series content, premium archives, open series archives, and content that's exclusive to the YouTube page, like unboxings. Again, head over to youtube.com/StarCityGames. Sign up for the website today. It is free, and you will be notified when new content is uploaded to the YouTube page.
You can be one of over 70,000 subscribers that have enjoyed that content. YouTube.com/StarCityGames as we get ready here for game numero dos between Brian Braun-Duin and Kent Ketter. Abzan Aggro, very popular deck here in day number 2 of competition. 24 copies, some with blue splashes, some without, but a lot of different ways you can go about building the deck. And I think, one thing we have learned about this format so far, even though we're only 12 rounds into it, that deck's not going anywhere.
No.
Still really good. I know it lost Fleece Main Lion, some other tools, but still just a really good deck. I think the control variety is probably in bad shape because the loss of Courser and Temples is so tough to overcome.
I think so. There's going to be control decks that play Siege Rhino. That's going to be a part of the metagame, I think, no matter what. But the traditional Abzan shell, where it's just 3 colors and you're eventually building up to 6 and 7 and 8 mana plays, I think that builds in real trouble.
Yeah. Courser was just so important.
Yeah, and the Temples as well. I mean, that was a deck that was built around the Temples. And the Temples are kind of innocuous. You just get used to playing with them. You don't really notice them. But for certain strategies, they were a huge part of why they could justify existing. And Courser's part of that as well. And no deck is hurt more by their rotation than the traditional builds of Abzan control. But Siege Rhino and Abzan Charm in control decks, that's still going to be a thing. That's not going anywhere.
Academy Vista is where Brian will start. We'll go to Ketter, who's got a Prairie Stream. Both players starting off with Battlelands to get game number 2 underway. It's a Prairie Stream here for Brian. Kent with a basic Plains into a Jace. Over to Brian we go. See if Brian can get a creature on the board here.
Gotta get something started. Or at least be able to kill this Jace. Gotta be one of the 2.
Land go, probably not going to cut it here. There's a Pluto Delta. It is just land go. There's a Jace activation. Draw, discard.
And with Manus Rider in hand here, I believe Ken, if he wants to, can use the Wooded Foothills. He can fetch for a mountain. He will then have 2 basic lands in play, cast the Manus Rider, and then mana is very easy to fix and play spells on time going forward because he'll have 2 basics in play.
See, isn't it fun to watch? Unless he has the mountain in his hand, which would be very awkward.
Well, then he would have just played the mountain, I hope.
I agree. There it is.
Yeah, all right, we're good.
It's time for Mantis Rider. Many thinking this is the premier creature to be playing in the format. Haven't seen a lot of Jeskai this weekend, but Ketter's found a way to work it into this 5-color deck.
Well, Haste, I think, is a lot better in the absence of Hero's Downfall.
Yep.
I think 3 Toughness has gone a lot better in the absence of Lightning Strike. So Manus Rider seems solid, and it wasn't like the card was bad before.
Pluto Delta going to be sacrificed. There's a swamp. There's Abzan Charm. The mana is correct. Black, white, and green.
Always worth a double check. Though.
Always got to look. Always got to look. It's a good habit to have in this new world we're living in. Wooded Foothills, past the turn back. Ketter with an active J still. Picked up a copy of Languish. He'll draw and discard. Doesn't need that Windswept Heath. There's a Wooded Foothills. He'll pass. Brian will sacrifice his Foothills. He'll take one, go down to 18. We'll see what land he wants to dig up. Probably a basic to turn on his battle lands moving forward. So we'll get a basic forest.
A lot of shuffling to be had.
Your favorite?
My favorite.
I wish Brian was pile shuffling, actually. Really gets you going. You know, I had a friend playing a PTQ once. Pile shuffle between every Mind's Desire copy. Just to see. Just to see how mad he can make his opponent.
If something like that is happening, the failing is on the judge staff.
They nipped that in the bud after round one. They said you can't do that. I wish he would have played against you. I'm sure you would have taken that in stride.
Yeah. That would have gone over really well.
Yeah. Brian going to sacrifice a Windswept Heath.
It would have worked out very well for your friend.
Yeah. There's a Canopy Vista. Brian got a creature to play? It looks like he finally does. Well, not exactly, but sort of is. It's a Gideon.
Good enough. It's something.
It's going to make a creature, and then it can turn into a creature, so sure. There's a Knight Ally. Back to Ketter we're going to go. Ketter's Jace pretty close to flipping. Looks like he's going to activate this on the upkeep. Treasure Cruise, I believe, the draw.
And because Ketter is under the gun here a little bit and doesn't appear to be able to remove Gideon from the table, it's kind of nice for him to have a Treasure Cruise just to prevent the Jace from flipping, because he's not in a position to protect a Planeswalker right now. I think he's better served having a Looter in play. So this Treasure Cruise, even though it looks awkward alongside Jace, I think will play quite well for him.
I think he's much happier drawing and discarding right now.
Yeah.
Crackling Doom in hand now. Is there anything this deck can't do?
Well, Abzan Charm, Jace, Fiery Impulse. This is ambitious.
Fortune favors the bold.
Yes.
Or so I've been told. Ketter going to sacrifice a land here or two.
And with the cards he has in his hand, Ken can kind of let the game just build up a little bit. I believe he has Bring to Light, and that allows him in the post-board games to search for Tragic Arrogance. So he sort of has an incentive to just draw some cards, kind of protect himself when he can, when it's convenient to do so, and eventually allow Tragic Arrogance to sweep up everything that Brian's developed.
Yeah, what's interesting is, of the Bring to Light decks that we've seen this weekend, and really of a lot of the decks that we've seen this weekend, Tragic Arrogance has not been a major player, and it was so important at the end of the last standard format that it wouldn't surprise me if it's not on the radar of a lot of people.
Well, for a deck like Jerry Thompson's, he's not really playing that much to the board. He doesn't have a lot of creatures. I think it's a lot more powerful in Kent's deck because he's playing with a bunch of Hangerback Walkers and Manus Riders, so he can set up really powerful boards for himself.
Here's Bring to Light. Looks like he's going with Utter and wants to get Gideon out of here. Creature, instant, or sorcery, very powerful card. Can't search for enchantments. I know many wanted to search for Demonic Pact with this card, which would be a lot of fun, but can't do that. Love this card, though. Utter End. Been really good this weekend.
Yes, you're definitely paying the cost.
Full retail.
Full retail. 4 mana is a lot to kill something, but gets it done for sure. And exiling is very important right now.
All right, that was a card that was I was spoiled. A lot of people were just kind of groaning a little bit. So expensive. What's the big deal here? It just seems like a pretty poor removal spell, but context is everything. And right now, it looks pretty good. There's Jamoka's command, also looking pretty good. Going to take care of Jace, make that Knight ally a little bit bigger. Over to Brian, we're going to go. Excuse me, over to Kent, we're going to go.
It's also, you know, yeah, that's a statement of fact, but that does not necessarily mean the card's unplayable.
Yeah. Kent might be looking to go for a cruise here.
Sure. I mean, if Brian wants to play this slow game, he's got some cards left over in his hand. He's not really threatening the board. And Treasure Cruise was made for spots like this.
And it's cheap to play. Delve 7, pay a blue, peel 3, and he's got good ones in his deck to draw.
Legacy PIQ players, your pairings for round 3.
There's a Swamp.
Posted.
There's a Jace. And conveniently has enough mana up to cast Crackling Doom.
Little suspicious with the tapping.
Yeah. Tapping the not basics.
I would have preferred for the Cinder Glade to be untapped.
There's nothing I can do.
You could also represent Abzan Charm with that land being available.
Very true.
So, nothing to see here.
Nope.
Nothing going on. Although I have occasionally run the mistap semi-bluff. You know, tap like you can still cast the card, but maybe you have to take a point that you wouldn't have to otherwise to get them to believe you don't have it. I don't get that vibe from Kent's tapping here.
This currently, I'm right there with you. Exert influence right now in Brian's hand. And he's going to use that on Jace. It's the new control magic. It's got Converge. And it's not Nora, which makes it very interesting.
That's huge upside on this effect, obviously. It cannot be disenchanted. It's just yours forever.
I guess Jace now belongs to BBD.
This doesn't seem like a bad spot for Kent just to languish. He's still got a lot of leftovers in his hand. A lot of cards to rebuild with.
Hang on to that Crackling Doom.
I would not want Brian to be able to untap with this Jace because Brian's low on resources and has an Abzan Charm in the graveyard to flash back. So he's got to do something.
I'm also just sensing a little bit of weakness.
Right, I get the sense that Brian's not got a lot going on.
Yeah. Here's a Siege Runner from Ketter. And now Valor Stance going to go after the Rhino. A little surprised not to see Language last turn from Kent. Here's Crackling Doom.
Yeah, I dislike this line of play here from Ketter just because I get the sense, and I think you get the sense, that BBD is sort of floundering right now. He doesn't have a lot going on. He's got no pressure, and him being able to flip this to loot, one of the two cards in his hand is probably a land, and then flashback and Abzan Charm seems like a great way for BBD to get back into this.
Now, there could be a little bit of a wonky ruling here. I can't imagine this is the case, but now that Brian controls the Jace,
Oh, he can't, yes.
he can't flip it, right?
Gotcha.
Because then it would go back to Kent.
Sorry, then.
Yeah. I was thinking about that briefly. I was like, well, you
Yeah,
know, there's this transform thing, so.
Right, the Planeswalker exiles and then returns to
its
the
controller.
owner.
Yeah.
Gotcha, okay.
There's Silk Wrap.
My apologies.
Yeah, so Brian's just going to be hanging on to Jace.
He gets a chump block at some point. He prevents Kent from being able to do it.
Here's Mantis Rider. It's not as good as we may have thought.
Yes.
Gonna come in here for 3 in the air. Now there's Hangerback Walker. So Kent's line of play makes a lot more sense now.
Right.
Over to Brian, we're gonna go. Smoldering Marsh past the turn back. Ketter, still with that Languish in hand. Looks like he picked up another copy of Jace. Gonna come across here with both creatures. Brian gonna take that damage too. Gonna fall down to 4. Ketter not gonna deploy his Jace, just pass the turn back. There's Warden of the first tree. Pass the turn back. Ketter. Obs on charm. Timely.
Yeah, pretty much perfect here. Can take care of the Warden.
That, or you can just put some counters on that Mana Strider and try to go for the W.
Yep.
There's a couple of different routes he can go. I promise he's not exiling his own creature.
This line is a little bit risky from Ketter because if there's a removal spell in Brian's hand, Warden can turn the game around all by itself. But if Ketter senses weakness, not a bad spot to go for the kill.
Well, he did sense some weakness, and he was correct. Ken Ketter going to win this match over Braun-Duin 2-0. 5-color Bring to Light is going to take down Obs on aggro for Ketter. Player did play in our Players' Championship last year, living in Bloomington, Indiana currently, not getting to play as much on the Open Series right now because of school. When we do see him, he continues his winning ways, and he's doing that here yet again. 10-2 now.
Very, very solid performance. And Ketter's deck is curious to me because he's not, again, it doesn't feel like he's trying to